Today I want to take some time to introduce a very good friend of mine who was diagnosed with lupus a little over 3 years ago, and she is a single mother of 3 and a shaker and a mover, and I'm excited for you all to be able to learn from her experience and how she's overcome and triumphed through this part of her life. Spring, it's been an honor because I've been able to be with you while you transitioned after getting your diagnosis and really learning how to move forward in your life with this new information. What kind of led up to you going in to find out what's going on?
It was kind of interesting, actually. Lupus is not a autoimmune disease that can be tested for. Basically, they rule out a bunch of other things, and then so it takes people a really long time to get diagnosed with lupus. And I feel like I was fortunate in the way that it all kind of went down because I got cervical cancer. And with the cervical cancer, I was kind of going to the doctor a little bit more regularly, and I changed doctors. And in that change, of course, they wanted to get all of my records, my medical record. They had to kind of pull it from a bunch of different places. And when they did that, the doctor sat down and got to look at everything like really comprehensively all at once. And I'll never forget, like, he looked at me for the first time, like I felt like somebody was like really seeing me and asked me like, no, how do you really feel?
Right.
You know, and I think for the first time I got really honest and just told them that I was fatigued all the time and I had this weird pain that I couldn't describe. It was all things that, like, when you take one thing at a time, like, it's not really a big deal or whatever. It's hard to put it all, but then I guess it was just the way that he approached it, and so I was able to really kind of list out, like, I was starting to have headaches on the every day, and they were going into migraines, and there were days where I couldn't get out of bed, and you know, he sent me in for a bunch of lab work, and I ended up getting my kidney biopsied. And there's several different kinds of lupus, and the kind of lupus that I have is nephritis lupus, and that is the kind that, so all autoimmunes, basically, it's your immune system attacking itself. And so my kidney attacks itself.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I have to do things that are, promote, healthy kidney.
Yeah. And what did it feel like after you got your diagnosis?
Oh man, I thought my world was crashing down around me. You know, for a white hot second, there was relief because there was a name to like what was going on with me, and I didn't feel so crazy anymore. Right. Then, it was this slew of, the kidney biopsy, the lab work, the going in and working with the team at the hospital for nutrition, and and it was like 6 different people coming at me with like these lifestyle changes that I was going to need to make. And I was already so exhausted and in so much pain that it felt absolutely impossible.
I think a lot of people can relate to that. It's like after you get your diagnosis, you find out that you have to change everything about the way you're living, eating, exercising, your bed even, you know, I mean, so many things. And it can feel overwhelming.
I totally just wanted to crawl in and pull the covers over my head.
Right? How does lupus affect your life today?
3 years ago, I would have told you horrible, awful, the worst thing that could have ever happened. Today, I have a completely different answer and perspective on that. So for me, having something like this has really enabled me, has really required me to, look at what's really important in my life. I've always thought that I was good at prioritizing things, but like when you have an autoimmune disease that with your flare-ups and you have, a limited amount of energy, you really, really, really have to learn how to prioritize. Learning how to say no, learning how to not schedule too far in advance, which was really hard for me because I am a whole year's worth of calendar, scheduled out. I have my PowerPoint, I'm like ready to go, always like 110 full board. And so when I had to start slowing down, it was really hard for me at first, but today, now, I see the gifts that it has given me. I'm really able to stay in the moment and to enjoy the smaller things. You know, it got me back into my art, my artwork, because that is something that I can do with minimal energy. It has taught me how to be better at taking care of myself, which is kind of crazy because, you know, in my head, logically, I think, oh, that should be something that, like, we're all really good at and we just know how to do, like, instinctually. Come to find out, like, I wasn't super good at it. You know, I focused on my 3 children and my friends and my family, and I was always the last one on the list. And I've learned that, like, I can't take care of other people if I can't take care of myself.
Excellent.
And so this was really, like, forefront. Like, you have to, like, you know, eat well, sleep well, you know, and sleep and rest are 2 totally different things. You live with a high pain level or an autoimmune that takes your energy levels. Learning how to rest differently has been super crucial. The diagnosis has allowed me to have a completely different perspective on my life going forward.
So,
I'm not getting any younger anyways,
yes,
you know.
You look like you are.
You know, like, all of the things that I'm supposed to do for this autoimmune is healthy for anyone.
Right.
Which is, you know,
Yes.
like, the awesome part, and it's probably stuff, honestly, that I would have never done without some kind of push like this.
Right.
And so I've gotten it early, I feel
Yeah.
like, and you know, with a little bit of, like, wiggle room to, like, learn about it, because it has been all trial and error. You know.
I love that. I love that you kind of went over the things you had to learn. You had to learn how to say no. That is incredibly difficult, especially when you have children and a big heart like you do. You know, we want to help and be available to people, but watching you learn how to prioritize yourself has been such a gift in my life too. And you spoke about resting. I've seen you, like, in a crowded place, sit and meditate. I mean, you're really walking the walk. You know, you really are letting this not define you, but make you into a better person. And that's huge. And something comes along in life and it has the opportunity to either break or make, you know?
Well, and I mean, it didn't always look this pretty
No.
either. So, I mean, like,
Yeah, it
so
was
don't
rough.
let her, like, fool you.
It was a rough few years.
And it was definitely the first year and a half, at least, where I really struggled. It was like 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. And I was doing this crazy, you know, country line dance with it. And, you know, and it ended up being a mental switch. I was kind of reflecting on it last night and this morning. It really had nothing to do with the physical manifestation of anything.
Right.
It was all in my head and my heart. Where you played a large part in helping me to see that. I feel really grateful that that I have somebody in my life that not only goes through things like this, but can be open and honest and vulnerable about it. If we don't share our experience,
Yeah.
you know,
It sure helps to not have to do things alone, for
you know,
sure.
that's the scariest part.
Yeah, having people who know you and love you and support you is a game changer. I asked, and you said head and heart, so I wanted to know when and how did you decide you were going to be okay?
And I love the way that you phrased that, because it was a decision.
Yeah,
It totally was. It wasn't like I woke up one day and everything was just rainbows and butterflies again. Those of us that get to learn how to go through life with something like this, you know, it is for life. It's hard to, like, pinpoint, like, when, because I definitely feel like there was times where I was doing a lot better with it, and then I would have, like, a massive setback. And because it really was a lot of trial and error. There's no one treatment route for many of us. You know, whether you deal with just chronic pain or you have an autoimmune or, you know, some other health issue that contributes to, you know, a harder lifestyle. This was kind of like a life lesson that I was able to apply to everything, that just because it didn't work doesn't mean that it was a failure, and that I can, like, kind of back up and, like, redirect myself and try it again. You know, like, assess what parts of it were working, what wasn't working, and try something different, and talk to people. Like, I talked to a lot of other people. I got on an online support system. I have a really great team at the hospital that helped me with nutrition, how to learn how to compartmentalize pain. I chose not to take any narcotics to deal with my pain.
Which was very important to you.
Yes.
And the way that you choose to live.
It is very important to me. But I do remember that there was this one time I was laying in bed, probably like my third day in bed, and this was probably a year and a half after my diagnosis. I just felt like it had been like flare up after flare up, you know, and I was feeling really hopeless. Just like I was never gonna figure out the key, you know, the right formula. Social person, I'm an active person, like all of the things that I had used to define who I was.
Like valued about yourself?
Yeah, was like kind of getting kicked out from underneath me. And so it wasn't just the physical part, it was like the emotional and spiritual part of it that was really kicking my butt. But I was laying there in bed and like I just kind of had this like major breakdown. And I kind of went to what I do when I'm in that place, and I prayed. I just got really honest, and I kind of, you know, like railed at my God, you know, and I just felt this huge relief. It was like I was being told that it's okay to be angry, it's okay to be scared, it's okay to not know. Somehow in that shift, I think I just decided, like you said, I'm not going to let this define me. Like, I'm not going to stop being the social, active person that I am. It might look different. Mm-hmm. And that was what I had to let go of. And was that my active social life was not going to look the same as it had before. But it doesn't mean that I can't still have that at some capacity.
Yeah. So that's the way it looked was the hard part.
Yeah, totally. And I guess I don't know if like I just have like this one plain brain or what, but like I was so stubborn and stuck on like if it doesn't look like this, it's not right, you know. Right. And it took a while for it to shift and for me to realize that so many different shades of purple. I know. You know, and so why can't my life, you know, just take on a different shade? You know,
and still be fabulous.
Yeah, totally. Really, when things really started to shift for me, and I was able to like spiritually and emotionally, mentally kind of absorb, accept where I was, and to learn to kind of create new pathways for myself.
Right. I love it. That's very similar to my story too. I mean, I just decided I wasn't going to let it break me.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think it's better, which is kind of crazy.
I know it is.
I know.
Right?
I know. If people are watching this, they're probably like, "What? Okay." I only see the blessings that have come from all my experiences.
Like I get to apply it in like so many different areas of my life too. You know,
right.
like,
so when you're having a flare up, what helps you feel better?
Oh man, there's not much other than to really, really not just learn, but like here, and here was to be honest with myself, with how I was feeling. Rest, and I mean rest, like not just sleep, but eating healthier during that period of time. Foods that aren't inflammatory foods.
That's a big one.
Is a really big one. Usually a flare-up is following high activity and poor eating for me.
Yeah.
And I'll be completely honest, there's times when I just choose to. And I just know that I'm going to pay for it.
That's a good point. You weigh out the consequences, and you're like, I'm going for it.
Totally do. I feel like I'm really good about not complaining about it.
Yeah.
When I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna feel really bad for a couple of days and
clear my schedule.
Yeah, it helps during my flare-ups because I get this really weird like nerve pain during my flare-ups. That's like all the ends of my nerves are like shooting electricity. Okay. It's really, really uncomfortable, and it makes it hard to rest.
I can imagine.
So it's one of those like. My favorite products is lavender Epsom salt. A nice hot soak in the tub with the Epsom salt seems to help a little bit. I'm a tea drinker when I don't feel good, and I feel so blessed that like my kids are teenagers now. They're very understanding and compassionate when I don't feel well. So they'll make me tea with honey and bring it to my room. I get cuddles. So that's nice. And then the other really crucial thing to do is, because I've noticed that there's like an eye of the storm with it, I'll start to feel better, and then I'll get active again, and then boom, I'm down twice as hard for twice as long. Okay. Or is to be aware that that is just like a brief lull in it, and that there's still more to come, and that I still really need to take it easy. And yeah, that took me a really long time to figure out, actually.
Because you thought you were coming out of it, so you picked up going full force.
Yeah.
As is your personality.
Mm-hmm.
As is mine.
I know, I was like, God, really, this personality, and you're just gonna knock me down for, like, you can't do anything? Definitely learning. There's lots that you can do without doing.
I know, to be still.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first time I've ever experienced being still.
Me too.
It's been with
It's
chronic
crazy.
stuff. Okay, so what are you passionate about?
Oh, passionate about. I am passionate about staying active. I love the state that we live in summertime especially. I want to be out on the ocean, on the rivers, on mountains, and I like to share it with my friends and family. My son and I got to go to the lake yesterday. It was beautiful. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm a little sunburnt.
Check out her tan.
It's the natural glow of, it was 65 and the Alaskans were like, woo!
Right?
Yeah.
You were too. It was hot.
I put sunblock on, so I
Wow,
was proud
you
of
did
myself.
so good.
Being of service to others,
Mm-hmm.
that is something that gives me so much. Artwork, music. I don't know what I would do without music. If I could listen to music 24 hours a day, I totally would.
So it brings you joy.
Totally.
And you are definitely, acts of service is incredibly important to you. And that's what I kind of was referring to when I spoke about her being a shaker and a mover, not just physical activity, but like in our community. She's out trying to make a difference and make changes in people's lives. What change do you want to see in the world?
Oh, one I guess that's really close to my heart right now is our education system. So I have 3 beautiful children, and they are all different as night and day. So they all have different talents and different learning styles. And so I've gotten to watch each one of them go through our school system. The way that it's just set up doesn't work for everybody. I remember as a kid, so like your success, perceived success or lack thereof in school was really a huge part of my own self-worth and value. When you are of that age, it is such a crucial maturing and growing time. And so for one part of their life, such a huge part of their life, for them to not be able to do well or to feel successful at, because the system is set for like one kind of learner, is really such a shame. More like VOTEC structured, and they have more options for like different types of learners. We don't in Alaska, and certainly not in our community. So that is kind of one thing that kind of speaks to my heart, that I really wish that we could change.
What do you do for self-care?
I've gotten to learn different types. And so I have a couple that are really, really successful for me for pain. They're very visual meditations. Those are still my go-to fallback. I'm not feeling well, when I start to feel that pain level ramping up. Now that I've been living in this for a little while, and I write about it and I think about it, I've seen the patterns, and so I'm able to be aware and to like kind of stave it off a little bit sooner. I think back when I made that switch, when I made that decision, was because doctors wanted me to write a pain journal. They had me writing and talking about my pain all the time, and I finally told them that wasn't serving me anymore, because it was like manifesting itself, and so I just told them I wasn't going to do it anymore. Definitely was a huge help. Was to start switching into a more positive thinking. I would thank my body for the things that were working well, that did feel well. And I would focus on those areas instead of like, where is my pain? How much does it hurt? Because then all of a sudden it would like start throbbing, and I would go from like a 3 to a 6.
That's awesome. With my chronic pain clients, I end every session with a counterbalance, and we go through what doesn't have pain, what feels stronger, what looks beautiful, and it's to shift that focus and start to balance.
Totally, and that was a huge winning point for me. I have to schedule out self-care time, so that's, no matter what I'm doing, look at my schedule and just say, okay, like I've got all this, I'm marking off a whole day or a couple hours or whatever.
Great tool.
So just to like kind of force myself into that, because otherwise I'll keep going until I hurt. Just sitting on the roots of my tree in my front yard, sounds so hippie, but
Grounding.
But yeah, I
is
get
a-
grounded with the,
Yeah.
and I listen to music. Just really try and get connected with the moment. You know, tell the universe thank you for all the blessings in my life. The more grateful I get, you know, the better
Right.
my life is. I like to paint. Painting is an amazing self-care for me. I oftentimes, my mind tells me I'm too busy to sit down and do something like that. But it is such a wonderful creative outlet, and it's definitely another form of meditation for me. When I'm trying to get that perfect color, like the whole world fades away and all I'm focused on is that. Walking. I found meditation in motion a couple of years ago.
Nice.
So that's super cool. Like I usually start off with one intention, you know, and then I kind of like in my head with like a mantra type thing while I'm walking, and like just really focus on that one thing. And reading is something that I have told myself that I would get back into.
Yay.
I mean, for a long time I was just reading like a lot of like self-help books and things like that, and now I'm reading, you know, some novels and just like fun stuff.
Yeah.
You know, candy.
Yeah.
School for so long, and you know, like
Yeah.
everything that I did, it was like so intellectual, and I forgot how much I really enjoyed just like reading a good novel.
Nice. What did you go to school for again?
So I went for a fine arts degree with a emphasis in business administration.
Okay. All right. Are there other products that you're crazy about for treating your symptoms?
Oh, 800 ibuprofen.
That's a good one. Yeah.
That is probably, it's on my person at all times. I suffer from migraines really badly. I have found that putting my feet in warm water
Oh, wow.
and my hands in cool water help. I think it's kind of like an old wives'
I was gonna say,
thing.
how did you find that?
Yeah, well, I really started asking around because migraines are debilitating, and I didn't want to get on a lot of meds. I take a daily preventative med, but it doesn't always save me. Is when I started thinking about the science, is it gets your blood circulating.
Oh, okay.
For some reason that like just made sense to me, and so I was like, okay. So you'll see me a lot of the times I have this little, like from the hospital, one of those like god-awful pink buckets, and then with my hands in my sink, and I'm just like, you know, sitting there. And so, yeah. I have a favorite tea, sleepy time
I was
tea.
gonna ask because I know you have insomnia.
Yes,
Also.
I do. It hasn't been as bad lately with my allergies. So right after I got the cervix cancer and then lupus, and then I got diagnosed with like 148 allergies. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I thought I was going to go crazy. So for like, I don't know, 9 months, my skin was just nuts. Like I couldn't sleep. I was constantly itching. I was broken
rashes.
out everywhere. And so I went to the allergist finally. It's like 148 man-made chemicals. So thankfully I'm not allergic to my favorite perfume.
Yay.
I know. Whew. I use a whole line of products that is Vanna-Cream.
Vanna-Cream?
Yeah, and so they have, you know, your sunscreen, your face wash, like all of like your basic beauty products that you need. I use those because they don't have any additives or any of my allergens in it.
Right. I have to get the link to that and your meditation app so I can
Yeah.
include them. What advice would you give someone else who is just getting their diagnosis for lupus?
I think the thing that was the most confusing to me and was hardest to hear, because I know it's so hard, like people just don't know what to say, you know, especially if you haven't been through something like this, and it was hard for me to even like tell people really, because I don't know, you know, it's like I don't want you to feel sorry for me, but I want you to understand why I'm being cranky and like snapping at you. Because I mean, there was a period of time where I was super grumpy, but it's gonna be okay. You know, like you're strong, it's gonna be okay. What really, really helped me actually was when I was able to just let loose and break down and realize that it's okay to not be okay. It doesn't mean the world's over. It doesn't mean that I'm giving up. It's just I was being true to how I felt, and I was validating what it was right here. you know, and that allowed me to go to the next step.
So expressing how you felt, feeling safe enough to express how you feel, and making that step, allowing yourself to feel despair and hopelessness or overwhelmed, and that allowed you to move forward.
Yeah. I would just tell somebody that, you know, man, it's rough, and it's okay to break down. It's okay to not be okay, and I'm here for you.
What helped for like the friends and family of someone who has lupus? What would you tell them? How can they be supportive?
I have a lot of people. I have an amazing support system, and that's another thing that this has really taught me, is how to ask for help. I'm still learning. I've gotten better. One of the hardest things to do, especially when you're in high pain and you're already fatigued and tired, is to tell somebody how to help you. I would encourage any family or friend to do is to think of, if you were feeling that way, what would help you, and to just do it.
Yes, that's a good point. I know for myself, when I'm down for the count, I don't know what I need.
Right, it's just like, you know, kind of. I mean, and of course it feels good to have somebody say that, you know, like, what can I do? How can I help you? I'm here for you, just let me know. I can tell you that out of 100 people that told me that, I probably only took 3 people up on it.
Right.
But it was the people that just went ahead and made dinners for me and that I could put in my freezer. People that came over and sat with me and watched a movie.
I was going to say, that's the biggest one for me. I was so lonely.
Yeah.
I was so lonely because I was so isolated from so much pain for so long.
Right.
The people that stood out to me were the ones that would just come sit by me. And I was watching TV. And I didn't need to entertain them. I didn't have to act or even talk to them. But they would literally just come sit with me in my bed. And
that's what I was going to say, is don't underestimate the power of your company.
Yeah, and I knew they were there, and I felt comforted by that, you know. And now look at us. We're out shaking and moving, cruising. How important is exercise in regards to lupus?
It's pretty important, I think, for any of us. So we know the physical and science of what happens to our body when we exercise. We release endorphins and serotonin, and so in order for me to have a good energy level and to be able to sleep well, so it's kind of like, you know, on both sides of the spectrum, and it doesn't have to be anything crazy. You know, that was why I started doing my meditation. Finding something that you enjoy doing, not forcing yourself to do something just because you think you should be doing it, was crucial for me. For a minute, I was stuck in the, you know, like I have to run if I'm exercising. And that is so far from the truth, it's not even funny, you know. And so sometimes it's just getting out with my kids and throwing a football. Swimming, when we were doing the swimming, that was really, really great. That's easy on all of my, you know, joints. I've found that exercise through play has been my favorite. You know.
Well, I'm all about streamlining.
Yeah.
And so if you can get like a meditation and movement, so if you're walking, listening to some meditation or relaxation and getting fresh air, that's all.
I know, right?
When you have kids, like, you got to put it all together. So if you can get a bike ride with your kids, you're getting, you know, it's about being efficient.
My goal is to do 20 or 30 minutes of some kind of cardio every week. It really doesn't have to be that crazy, but I definitely find in the wintertime it's harder, and I start to feel the effects of it. Right? You know, negative effects.
And you spoke about and you spoke about anti-inflammatory foods, which is just huge right now for what's working for me. Like, that's what I use to treat my pain.
Right.
And it does all that other stuff too. Like, you get extra bonus stuff, like you get healthy, happy, higher energy. But I love that you spoke about that. What health and wellness tips do you have for others that you love?
Yes, I cannot emphasize enough that for me, the most important part is to stay emotionally, mentally, and spiritually well. And then my body follows. Focus on the negative. When I talk down to myself, that's when, then my pain manifests even more. When I thank my body for what feels good, when I focus on the positive, when I make that switch into, you can't keep a good dog down type attitude, things go really, really well. And that was really the start for me to be able to come back up out of that valley of despair, you know. Doesn't mean that I don't still sometimes, you know, have little dips into it, and then I just remember, like, oh, okay, that's right, this can be all mental. I always have the power over that. I may not have the power over what my body is doing physically in some areas, but I can change this anytime.
Control over it.
Yeah, you know, it's kind of scary.
The conscience.
It's kind of cool.
But we got some tips and tricks to work on your subconscious too.
Yeah.
Get them all working for you.
Yeah, and I do, and that's a good point. Like, and I do exercises that help me with that.
Yeah.
You know, affirmations or, you know, when I am of service to other people, you know, there are different things that can be done that help me, you know, get to that place where it becomes easy.
That's a big thing right now. People, I've noticed, you know, can have everything and feel discontent. And my number one question is, well, what have you done for somebody else selflessly? You know, because that seems to be the kicker. Like, if you want to have a great life, then what are you doing for other people selflessly? You know, it seems to be like an important ingredient in the recipe of contentment and satisfaction.
Right. And I know for me it is.
Yeah, I know.
So,
I know.
And it's probably like this complete like mind blower for some folks.
I know.
You know, like, what? For me to be happy, I make somebody else happy?
Yes! It's so true though.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
we've lived it, we've seen it working in people's lives, and it doesn't have to be, I mean, you don't have to go out and save the world, but like paint the little, you know, your neighbor's fence, it's falling down, fix it, you know, when at night, or, you know, I mean, it can just be tiny little things that nobody even knows about. Right. But they start to enrich your life.
So, and then the other one is really like, is being connected to something greater than yourself, you know?
Let's go there.
Yeah.
This is important to you. It's important to me.
It really is. Belief that there's something greater than myself at work took a lot of weight off of me. You know, even just the energy of the universe is something that I can focus on.
Did your faith waver at all through?
Heck yeah.
Did it?
Heck yeah. You know, I think it's the one thread that never really completely frayed and broke.
Right.
You know, like everything else did, like my sense of who I was, the belief in myself, which was something that was, you know, fairly fresh anyways. It got real thin for a second.
What kind of fears did you have?
That I would never be able to have fun anymore. Yeah. That I wouldn't be able to finish raising my kids. That I wouldn't be able to work. I was going to be a grouchy, crabby old lady, like, already.
Before you're old.
I know! I mean,
it's happening!
One of the things that I love about myself is that, you know, that I'm a happy, outgoing, vivacious person. And for that to look like it was going to be taken away was one of my greatest fears.
It was heartbreaking.
It was so heartbreaking. And you know, and I went through a grief process.
Yeah, you did. Good point. And so with that fear, did you use faith, or what did you use to kind of, I guess the decision was the action plan, the faith was...
That was my connection. And so, and I think that it was bits and pieces, but for a large part of it, it was a connection to my support group. I really got to lean on other people, probably for maybe like the second time in my life had I ever really just let go of all of my own, you know, self-sufficiency and just said, okay, you know, hold me up. Yeah. I can't do this.
And that's huge for you. I don't know of a time in your life prior to that where you've ever done that. Had people hold you, you know?
No. I mean, like...
Because you're holding other people usually.
Yeah, usually, you know. And so it was really uncomfortable. It was really scary. They didn't let me down, you know? And through that process, I feel like God was at work. And so I got to strengthen my connection with that again. And I finally got to tap back into me and connect with me again, you know. Yeah. And so it was just really important for me, because I think the worst thing that I could ever do is to feel isolated and all alone. Yeah. And I think that things like this have the tendency to do that.
Especially if you don't do anything about it. Like, there's no, I mean, with the technological advances, there's no reason to feel alone at this point in our lives. And I know that when you have a chronic illness, it's hard to relate. I mean, it's hard to not feel alone sometimes in a crowd of people. But if there are ways to find like-minded or people in a similar situation, and to get, like you did the Facebook group, you reached out to your community support people, your family. So often people that are dealing with health issues feel like a burden, and they, you know, the family is already doing so much around them to help already. The last thing that anybody wants to do is put on more on their plate. But it's like there's other people out there, you know.
Yeah. There's so many ego-driven emotions that are attached to it, you know. And then for folks like me, oftentimes it's the first time I've ever been thrown into something like this.
Right.
You know, where I've needed to try and to break away from the way that I've always lived or performed in my life and try something like 180 degrees different.
Right.
You know, and so it was hard. Like there was a huge adjustment.
Right.
And I mean, and honestly, like I look to those that went before me, like you know, and a couple other people in our community that I've gotten to see their experience and their walk. And so I knew it was possible, you know?
Yeah. Thank goodness for the people that go through something and then turn around and look for others, you know, like reach a hand back and like let's rally. Rally together.
That's one of the reasons why I said yes to this interview. And I was like super nervous and uncomfortable. I wasn't feeling well this morning. I just think it's really important because it made a huge difference in, you know, in my walk with it. I'm eternally grateful to you and to the other people that get real and honest about it.
Right. Live transparently and let you see how they're living. It's big. Yeah. Just so you guys know, Spring is a graphic designer and is currently looking for a new career, something where she can utilize her many strengths and gifts. I'm going to put a picture of my brochure, my business brochures up just so you guys can see some of the work she did, and it was a real godsend to have her help me out with my business. And then I guess if people wanted to reach out to you, if someone was in a similar situation, how would they get a hold of you?
They can call me.
They can call you? You want me to put your phone number in there?
You can totally put my phone number on there.
I will leave Spring's phone number. We'll put them in the show notes. And if you are struggling and just need someone to support you, you know, she's a great resource. And don't hesitate to call. If you feel alone and are looking for some kind of solutions, this is the girl to ask. Yeah, and with that, thank you for watching Altered Self Wellness. Bye, guys.
Bye.